talk about the communication, coaching, and conflict management. We will start with the communication because the communication is the fundamental base of those coaching and conflict management. So as the definition, the communication is the process of conveying information and meaning. But the true communication happens when only all parties understand the message from the same perspectives. Here, I would like to mention about some communication facts. In the organization, typical managers spend around 40% of their time for the communication. And the leadership is about influencing. And this only happens through the communication. So the communication is very powerful tool for the leadership. And this leadership is also about building the relationship, which depends on also from the communication. Also, there is a linkages between the communication competency and the leadership performance, which can be explained that the more communication competency skilled manager can have the leadership, higher the leadership performance. And the better a leader communicates, the more effectively they can lead. So now there are many organizations try to train their employees to communicate more effectively. And then not only the practical organizations, but also the academics are willing to study the communication and they start to talking about the soft skills. And for the communication, we first will need to study how to send a message and giving the instructions to the employees. The first of all, the communication is a core managerial skill. And as a manager, they send messages in person, face-to-face talks, and over the phone. And also they send their messages in writing, like emails and memos. And giving the clear instructions to the employees is essential for effective leadership. If there is a miscommunication happens, like it is expressed those words like this isn't what I asked for. When this happens, especially it's because of the manager's fault, because the managers give the incorrect assumptions and poor planning messages. And also they have the lack of responsibility of our mutual understanding. The managers should instruct the employees to motivate, and they need to directly affect to their job satisfaction and team performance. So the effective communications equal effective leadership. The first skill is the communication. Then the managers give the clear instructions in detail, all of them. They need to express what they need to do and what's their desired outcome in the future, so that the employees understand what to do and which leads to the greater performance. So before sending a message, you ask yourself that, what is the goal of my message? My message is to express my feeling, or is my message goal is to inform the messages? The first of all, the managers need to set the goal of the message. And the second one, who is the receiver? Who are you writing for? And you need to define who will receive the message and how do they need to be received. Should I deliver this message in my office or in the employee's office? They need to decide it before they send a message. And the third one is, how should I send it? Should I use the verbal communication or should I use the written communication? The managers first they need to decide this. And the fourth one, when is the best time? Some managers make a mistake that, for example, the office hours ends at 8 a.m. No, 6 p.m. And then the time of the duration of the delivery message is around 15 minutes. But the managers send in their messages at the time of the closing hours. Leads to the maybe the employees wants to go from the office to the home, and they have the different thoughts and they have the distractions. Then the managers should choose the best time. If it's near to the closing time, maybe the managers can deliver the messages to the next day. And they also need to choose where should it happen. You need to choose the less distracted environment. If the manager chooses the oral message sending process, like they need to meet in person, they have those processes. The first of all, they need to develop rapport. They need to start the building comfort and openness between the receiver. For example, the managers can start small talking. Small talking can flow to the stating your communication objectives, so that the receiver can have easily understand what do you want to deliver. And the second one is state your communication objective. The man can make a mistake on this step because they do not express their objective clearly. They talk too much about before in detail. So the managers need to to clarify their purpose on this stage, and then transmit the delivering the main contents in detail. And the fourth one is to check the receiver's understanding, because the managers assume that I have explained all the objectives. She must have understand. But if you are assuming this is make a mistake. Leads to the mistakes, because until you check the receiver's understanding, all of the messages can be understood is clearly, cannot be verified. So the managers need to check their understanding by using the paraphrasing or asking the questions. And the fifth oral messaging process is get a commitment and follow up. And after delivering the messages and checking the understanding that whether the receiver has fully understand all of the content is to get content. Now, the last step is to get a commitment, and how will you do this? And when can you do this? And also make sure the follow-up actions. Then the managers can deliver the messages through oral communication and also the written communication. And here you can see the types of the oral communication and written communication. If the message is hard to deliver and they have the quite complex contents, maybe the oral communication is better. But maybe the procedural actions and the simple ideas can be delivered via the written communications like letter, memos, and post letter and emails. If you choose the written communication, here are some writing tips. Because the writing communication is very essential because the development of the technology and internet, it enables us to communicate globally at the real time. We can like this meeting, we can communicate via internet with the advancement technologies, and it helps improving the communications. So the email or writing communication is the primary tool of the most business messages. In the organization, the writing reflects the professional image and human's intelligence. If you have the poor writing skills, maybe the reader can assume that you have the low intelligence and you have the low professional images. So the employees or the managers need to improve their written communications. Also, the poor grammatical errors and unclear writing can harm the credibility of the managers. So that's why the writing skills matter in the organizational culture. You need to understand that written messages stay on record and they can be archived. They can be shared or forwarded easily to others. So make sure that your email is so understanding and is more professional way. In the writing communication, you need to clarify the reader understanding and managerial effectiveness and also their professional reputation. In the writing communication, there can have the several problems. The first of all is the lack of organization, and people start writing without any planning. They just start writing. But all in their writing communication, you always set an objective first. What's your objective? What's your main goal? Is it your main goal is to influence the others, or you want to express your feelings, or you just want to deliver the messages? Then the second one is who's your audience, and choose the better way to make sure that audience can read the messages in the flowing the ways. And the third one is what do you want them to do? You need to clarify what they need to do based on this writing. And we have some writing tips. The first one, before writing, you need to set an objective first. And the second one is identify who's your audience and make the outline of the key points. Then keep the writing short and simple. Use one topic per paragraph. You cannot mix all of the contents in only one paragraph. And you need to use 5 sentences per paragraph on average and 15 words per sentence. Keep in mind those rules of thumbs for the writing communication. Also, remember that keep tone professional and more direct way. Your writing cannot have the too understanding. And also you need to use the active voice. Active voice is more clearer and stronger and more engaging for the readers. And also they use the action words and direct phrasing. After done writing, editing and revising is needed. Always review and improve your first draft. You can add missing details for clarity. The second one is cut unnecessary words or phrases. And also you can rearrange the sentences for flow and use grammar and spell checkers. And ask someone else to proofread important documents. This is a very essential step because when writing, people fully understand their writing. But from the other side, other people's point of view, maybe the writing is not clear. Maybe you can miss some details. So for the very important documents, you can ask another professionals to revise your writings. And you need to prepare the writing checklist before they send the messages. Is my purpose clear? And is the tone appropriate for the audience? Are paragraphs focused on one topic? And is it short enough and simple enough and free of errors? You need to make sure. And does it include the necessary action or follow-up? You need to check all of them. I've just talked about how to send the message. Now we turn to the topic, to the receiving messages. For the receiving message includes 3 key steps: listening, analyzing, and checking understanding. The goal of the receiving message is to ensure accurate, respectful, and meaningful communication between speaker and listener. So here you can see the 3 key steps of the listening in details. The listening is the process of giving full attention to the speaker. It includes verbal and nonverbal feedbacks. So here are some tips. The first of all is pay full attention to the speaker. And if you are doing something, and stop what you are doing and just focus on what they are saying. And the second one is this: avoid the distractions. Remove the noise and put your phone away, and make sure your phone is on silent mode. And stay tuned and don't let your mind wander around in other topics. And don't assume or interrupt. Some people, when listening the topic, they can pre-assume the topics in the future. What the speaker is going to talk about, but it affects the listener's attention has been distracted. So just hear the full messages, and also you need to watch the nonverbal cues like the body languages and gestures. And you also need to ask questions to clarify what you have understand is really clearly or not. And also you need to take notes to capture the key details. This listening step is very essential for the communication. The very good listener is the good communicators. The second step of the listening is analyzing. And this is the process of thinking about and decoding and evaluating the messages. On average, people speak 120 words per minute, but their brain can process around 500 words per minute. The difference between them is around 380 words per minute. This difference leaves the time for distraction. So be sure that you have understood all of the speaker's idea without any distractions. And after you're listening, you need to analyze effectively and think actively, organize and summarize. Also, you need to paraphrase and interpret what you have just listened. And also the second one is use your brain's extra time to reflect, not wonder. Pay attention to the speaker and wait to evaluate, listen fully before judging. Most of the people, when listening, they start judging the speaker. So before judging, you need to listen fully and at last, base conclusions on facts, not stereotypes. The third step of the listening is checking understanding. This is the process of giving feedback to confirm shared meaning. After you have listened, for example, in the classroom, as a lecturer, we teach the topic to the students. There may have the 60 or over students in the classroom. If the one teacher taught about any topic, maybe 60 different understanding can be raised. So after the lecture, the teachers usually make sure that all of the students can understand the full topics for the shared meaning. Also, this step is also works for the listening steps. To check the understanding of the understanding, we use the paraphrase. Paraphrase is restating or repeating the speaker's messages on their own words. And also the paraphrase confirms that you have understood correctly. For examples, you can say that, so you are saying that this way or not? You mean that this way? These phrases can be used for checking understanding. And also you need to watch the nonverbal cues like the body languages and observe whether the other person understands your response. And also you need to clarify immediately if confusion appears. After all of these steps, mutual understanding can be shared and stronger trust can be built. And the next one is the giving the feedback. You have sent the messages and listened to the others. Now it's time to give the feedback. The feedback is the process of verifying the messages and determining if objectives are being met. This feedback step helps ensure that communication is accurate and meaningful and leads to the desired outcome. In the feedback, we have the two main purposes. The first one is the verifying messages. Verifying messages can be done through confirming understanding, like paraphrasing and asking a question. And the second one is meeting objectives. You need to track their progress towards the performance goals. In the verifying messages, we can use questioning and paraphrasing and allowing the comments or suggestions openly. This feedback is also works as a performance measurement tool. For the performance, we usually can have the set the goals can be measurable. And it helps the leaders and organizations track their progress towards the objectives using this feedback. And they have the messages from the employees and what they are doing now, and whether you have any comments on this or not. And ongoing and continuous feedbacks gives the timely adjustment and continuous improvement. If you haven't got any feedback from your employees, maybe employees can have the different results at the end, and you need to redo all of the actions again and again. Preventing this mistake, the managers always have the feedback from the employees. By using the feedback procedure, the managers can ensure the mutual understanding between senders and receiver. And without any feedback, messages can be misunderstood and leading to the errors. And you need to do all of the work again, which results to the wasted time and frustrations. And feedback helps both managers and employees grow and improve their performance together. As a manager, they need to be open to the feedback. You should not get the feedback as a criticism. The feedback is a kind of the criticism, but it is a key tool for personal and professional growth. You must be open to hearing things you may not like. Even you can receive the uncomfortable truth about you. Many people, when receiving the feedback, they become more defensive. If the person are becoming the more defensive way, they start listening. They start doing nothing and just want to defend yourself from the criticism. So when you having the feedback from the employees, you also need to learn how to receive and how to understand the feedback. If you react the feedback very emotionally, the feedback will stop. But keep in mind that no pain, no gain in the future. So having the feedback from the others is hard, but you need to resist, and also you need to learn from your fault in the future, which leads you to the greater performance in the future. Here you can see the 4 guidelines for the managers and the communicators. The first rule is be open to feedback. You need to encourage the questions, and you need to encourage your employees to feedback your actions, and never punish the curiosity. Maybe you can receive the stupid questions, but there is no dumb question. You also need to give any feedback to these questions, because one statement can be understood in various ways. And the second one is use positive and nonverbal cues. We use the facial expressions and tones, and this can be show the patience and openness. And also you need to observe the nonverbal signals like confused looks and raised eyebrows. This often expresses the misunderstanding. So you need to clarify again and again. And the third step for the managers is asking specific questions. Don't just ask any questions. When you ask just any questions from the others, they don't often reply your questions. Instead, you need to ask that, what's your understanding of the next step? Or how would you summarize the main task? These specific questions can get the feedback feedback effectively. The fourth step is using the paraphrasing. But when you're using the paraphrasing, you need to choose the right word and right sentences. How you ask the receiver to paraphrase is also affects his or her attitude. Here, these red words like, now tell me what you are going to do, so we will be sure that we are in an agreement. When the employees hear these sentences, they stop giving feedback because they assume that maybe the managers is judging me. But the second one is, would you tell me what you are going to do so that I can be sure that I explain myself clearly? Hearing these sentences encourages employees to collaborate and expressing their feelings towards their messages. So when using the paraphrasing, you need to choose the right tone to express your words. So the positive paraphrasing really works, but if you're using the negative paraphrase, you also cannot receive any feedback. And using the positive paraphrasing helps to reducing pressure and blame, and it builds the trust and cooperation and encourages the employees to communicate openly, and it improves accuracy of instructions and task completion. And the tone of your request is very essential as much as the words you use. In the office, the organizations also use 360-degree multi-rater feedback. This is a formal performance evaluation system that gathers feedback from the multiple sources like managers, peers, subordinates, also the self and customers. For example, let's take an example of 10 people's employee organization. And then all of the employees will be rated by one employee. And then all of the employee give the scores to the others' performance. Using this system helps to provide the well-rounded and fair evaluations. Also, it highlights what strengths and improvement areas of the employees and managers. And it encourages collaboration and self-awareness. And they have understood that what's their advantages and disadvantages and what they are going to improve in the next year. And how to use this. And the first one is be open. Accept all of the feedback as information for the growth. And the second one is collaborate. You also need to discuss the results with your managers and create an improvement plan together for the next evaluation system. Seeing the disadvantages can give the opportunity to improve what you need to improve in the next evaluation system. And the fourth one is act. Show that you apply the feedback in practice. So the feedback is not about fault. This is about continuous improvement. Okay, let's turn to the next topic, coaching. This coaching is the process of giving motivational feedback to maintain and improve performance. And this coaching system focuses on maximizing strengths and minimizing weaknesses. It also helps the employees perform better and grow professionally. And coaching is now a core leadership skill and outside the sports. When we talk about the coaching, people also keep in mind that they assume they are going to talk about the sport coaching, but not. In a business environment, we use the coaching in practice. It is really inspired by the athlete coaching techniques because having the coach leads the athletes to the steady guidance and performance improvement and motivation. Having this technique to the business environment, it coaches the new employees for the organization. Also, it is very important for the employees learning new roles or tasks. Here are the 10 coaching guidelines. The first one is develop a supportive working relationship. In the coaching guideline, in the coaching communication, the one is the manager and the other one is the new employee, for example. So the manager and employees should develop the supportive working relationship. They just don't need to be a friend. They need to support each other. And the second guideline is give praise and recognition. Giving the praise like the certificate of achievement and the awards, the ceremonies, events is a part of this coaching guidelines. And the third one is stop blaming the faults. And this is making the employees more embarrassed. Avoiding the blame helps to develop the healthy working environment. So stop blaming the others, just focuses on their achievements. And the fourth one is the focus on the behavior, not the person. In the business environment, people usually focus on the person, not what they are talking about, what are their behavior. They just started and observing the person and what should we judge them. Stop doing the judgment and blaming the others, just focus on their behavior. And the fifth one is have employees assess their own performance. And it helps the employee to understand their advantages and disadvantages on their own. And the sixth one is give specific and descriptive feedback. If you haven't given any feedback to the employee, they cannot understand what they are doing wrong or right. You need to clarify what they are doing right and how you improve. Also, you need to give some descriptive feedback to improve their performance. And the seventh one is give the coaching feedback. And the eighth one is provide modeling and training. If you hire a new employee, you can model and assign a coach to the new employee as a training program. And the ninth one is make feedback timely but flexible. You need timing is very important. So that the employee can understand their faults. Right after making the mistake, giving any feedback on that time maybe is not necessary. Maybe you can give some time to understand their faults on their own, and after they have understanding, you can give the feedback. It helps the receiver understanding their faults and they can be motivated. And the 10th one is also about the criticism. Don't criticize the others. Just focus on what they have done right and what they need to improve. Don't talk about their faults. If you criticize, they stop doing nothing. They stop doing anything. So the criticism is the act of pointing out the mistakes and what their mistake was and placing the blames on them and judging whether a person has done right or wrong. It usually focuses on the person, not the behavior. But we need to focus on behavior, not the person. It often causes the embarrassment and defensive instead of improvement. If you start criticizing the others, the people started becoming the defensive manner. They start defending their actions. They start defending their self. So you cannot criticize the other people. Because when the people are criticized, even when it's called constructive criticism, the four negative outcomes can happen. They become defensive. The first outcome is here. They try to justify or blame others instead of accepting the feedback. The second one is they stop listening. They just concentrate on defensive manner. And people tune out what is being said and don't process the messages. And the third one, they feel bad about themselves. Criticism lowers self-esteem and confidence, which leads to the poor performance. And the fourth negative outcome can be they dislike the task or the critic. Negative emotions can be developed toward the job or to the manager, resulting that criticism damages their relationships and motivation and performance. Maybe some criticized employees can leave their work. So when the people more criticize, the less they care about improving. They just start doing nothing. Employees often start thinking that employees doesn't care, the managers doesn't care about us. They don't appreciate our work. So why do we need to do this work? They start thinking this way. As a result, they do the bare minimum, meaning that they do nothing, so that they cannot be criticized in the future. And the second one is avoiding the risks or creativity to escape the blame. But this taking the risky behavior or the creativity leads to the innovations. And also by criticized employees hide their mistakes from the managers. They just hide in their mistakes and stop learning from others. And they feel they're anxious and feel stressed. And when the manager approaches and criticism destroys everything, like the motivation and building the trust, also the poor performance. Instead of criticizing, managers need to focus on the coaching actions and praising and recognizing their achievements and giving the constructive feedback that builds the confidence, not the fear. So what's the difference between criticism and feedback? Criticism focuses on what people did wrong, but coaching focuses on what the people did right. So the main difference is here. The criticism makes the people feel like they are like losers and reduces their motivation. But coaching feedback makes employees feel like they are winners. They can do anything and builds their trust and confidence and determination to the performance. And good coaching builds success by creating the trust and focusing on growth instead of faulting. So don't criticize the others. If your organization can have the employees who are performing below the standard. If you have these kind of the workers, all 10 coaching guidelines, just I have mentioned, you also need to work on this. And managers often make the mistake of criticizing the poor performance, blaming them, and they feel more shy and they feel like they are losers. So this kind of criticism doesn't work. Instead, the managers should use patience and need to give the positive coaching to help the employees improve. And there is the attribution theory in the organization. And this attribution theory explains how managers identify the causes of poor performance and decide what action to take. In the business or social science studies, attribution theories explains the causes of the poor performance or the causes of the behavior. So first, the managers analyze the reason for poor performance, and then they choose a corrective coaching actions. And managers often assume poor performance is caused by the internal factors of the employees, like lack of the ability, lack of the motivation, not skillful, rather than the external factors like resources. However, effective and good leaders try to understand all positive causes like internal and external factors. According to performance formula, performance is the formula of ability, motivation, and resources. If one of them is low, the performance will also be low. If the ability is the issue, the managers need to provide the training to the employee. If the motivation is low, use the coaching system and encourage the others to do. And also you can use the rewarding system to motivate the others. And if the resources is the low, they ensure the employees have the tools and support what they need. According to the coaching model, it provides the structured way for managers to help the employee improve performance effectively and respectful way. It includes 4 main steps. The first step of the coaching model is describe current performance. You need to describe What is the problem? If the problem is ability, you just if the problem is the ability, or if the motivation is can be the problem, or the resources can be the problem. First of all, you need to describe the current performance, and the second one is describe desired performance and what you want to achieve in the future. What's the desired outcome of this action? You need to describe in all of the details to the employees. And the third one is get the commitment to the change. On the second step, if the ability is the problem, you need to give the coaching program and skip the third step of the commitment. You don't need to get the verbal commitment from the employees who have the lack of the ability, not skillful. You just need to give the coaching program, training program to that employee. And the third, but if the problem is motivation, meaning that the employee is already know what to do, but they don't do. In this case, you need to get the commitment to the change on the third step. And the fourth step is you need to do the follow-up checks. You need to check whether the employee is doing what they have committed or not. And the next topic is about the mentoring. And this mentoring is also a form of coaching. And the difference between of them is coaching is like more less short-term oriented, but the mentoring program is long-term oriented. And in the mentoring program, the more experienced manager helps the less experienced employee. It shares the same also 10 tips for coaching that we have studied earlier, but is more personal, long-term, and career-oriented. By using the mentoring program, it provides the career advice and guidance to the less experienced or new employee and help their proteges to develop leadership skills and supporting the personal and professional growth. Also, it encourages proteges to learn from others, but still be themselves. This mentoring program have benefits to both protege and organization. For the mentees, they can have the greater career advancement, and they can have the higher job satisfaction, stronger relationship, leadership, and confidence. But for the organization, they can benefit from mentoring program by building a learning culture, strengthening leadership pipelines, and it improves the employee retention and morale. In practice, a lot of the companies like Hewlett-Packard, Nokia, and IBM companies use the mentoring program. And then last topic is about the managing conflict. In the business environment and the organization, the conflict exists whenever people are in disagreement and opposition. We cannot escape from the conflict. It is inevitable because everyone sees things differently. For example, here you can see this picture. Some of them see the young lady, but the others can see the old lady. So people have their own point of view. And if their expectation crosses the mind, they can have the conflicts. The success of an organization depends on how effectively manages the conflict. According to the psychological contract, it is the contract refers to the unwritten expectation between people in a relationship, especially the employees and employer relationship. For example, the employees expect a fair treatment compensation, satisfaction, and respect. But the organization's point of view as an employer, they expect effort, skills, time, and loyalty from the employees. But they do not express what's their expectation from the others in clear way. Especially those are implicit and unspoken ways. That's why the conflict arises. And conflict often occurs when the psychological contract is broken, usually because people don't clearly express their own expectations or ask about the other's expectation. And the second one is they assume others share their expectation. For example, the managers assume that our employee is also expect the time and loyalty and efforts. No, the employees have also different expectation. You need to ask their expectation. Also, you also need to say your expectation from them. When the expectations aren't met, the conflict emerges, and to prevent this, communicate openly and negotiate expectations assertively way. And effective leaders they face the conflict regularly, and managers spend an average of 7 hours per week resolving staff conflicts. And this conflict management is very essential skill that directly impacts the company's success. As teamwork increases, so does the need for effective conflict resolution skills. If the team's members have the conflict between them, the managers need to resolve their conflict. You cannot skip or ignore their conflict. In a global context, leaders must be culturally sensitive to avoid misunderstandings. There can be two types of the conflict. The first one is dysfunctional conflict. It prevents achievement of organizational goals, often emotional or personal conflicts. The negative outcome arises from the dysfunctional conflict because the goal of this conflict is just personal. Then the functional conflict can also be raised in the organization. It promotes open discussion and new ideas and leads to better decision and innovation. These conflicts can have the positive outcomes for the company because they share their thoughts, they conflict on the maybe developing the new product, they can have the conflict for the designs or the new ideas. It helps they really building the good relationship with others and they can result the positive outcomes. So this conflict is unavoidable and inevitable, but when we manage it well, it can drive the growth, creativity, and better teamwork. In the organization, in practice, everyone can have the conflict, both personally and professional conflicts. How you handle the conflict depends on your concern for your own needs and concern for others' needs. There are five main conflict management styles, depending on the concern level. And for example, if the concern level is low for self, high concern for others, you prioritize others' needs over your own, resulting in the passive behavior. You show no behavior during the criticism or during the conflicts. You just be on silent mode. If the higher concern level for self and low concern level for others, you push your own needs regardless of others. You think that only my concern is important, not the others. In this way, you show the aggressive behavior. And if the higher concern for both self and others, You aim for mutual benefit and cooperation. And in this way, people show the assertive behaviors. Here, the conflict management, here you can see the 5 conflict management styles, depending on the high concern for others or the low concern for others and own needs. And you can have the 5 conflict management styles from these matrices. For example, in here, we have the high concern for others' needs and low concern for own needs, which results to the passive behavior, you win, I lose behavior. On the other side, the high concern for others and own needs, it results to the assertive behavior, win-win situation. And here you can see the forcing conflict style. This is called the aggressive behavior. You lose, I win. The concern for yours is not important, but my concern is important. But on the 5th way is negotiating conflict style. This is also a kind of the assertive behavior. You win some, I win some. These are the 5 conflict management styles. And depending on the styles, the first one is the avoiding behavior. In this one, concern for self is low, concern for others is low. When this happens, the people shows the passive behavior. So you can result to lose-lose outcome. Both of you and both of others will lose as a result. And the second one is accommodating style. In this style, the concern for self is low and concern for others is high. In this way, you win, I lose. You also show the passive behavior. And the third one is the forcing. In the forcing behavior, concern for self is high. Your need is high, but the other's concern is low. In this case, people show the aggressive behavior, but the result is win-lose. You win, the others lose. And the fourth negotiation style is the moderate. Concern for self is moderate, and concern for others, moderate. This is a kind of the assertive behavior. And as a result of this behavior, people have partial win-win. Some of them you win, some of them others win. And the 5th one is collaborating style. Concern for self is high. Also, the concern for others is high. In this style, people show the assertive behavior, and as a result, people have the win-win outcome. The collaborating or the 5th style focuses on assertive resolving conflicts in a way that meets the needs of both parties. A win-win approach. Effective leaders use this collaborating style. They address the disagreements directly and respectfully, and they preserve relationships while resolving the problem. And also they build their culture of cooperation based on this relationship. And the 3 roles in the conflict resolution is the first one is initiator's role. The initiators work as the person who brings up the issue. What is the problem? And the second one is responder. The person is being confronted is called responder. And the third party is mediator. The mediator's role is a neutral third party who helps others resolve conflict. In other words, initiator and responder have the conflict, and mediator helps to manage the conflicts between them. So in this case, we can use the 4-step conflict resolution model. The first one, as a mediator, they can plan a BCF statement. This BCF statement is translated into behavior, consequences, feelings. Define the issue objectively and take the ownership of your problem. For example, when you talk during my presentation, I lose focus and others get distracted and I feel frustrated. You can state the issues. The second one, present your BCF statement and agree on the conflict. In this case, share your short statement, then let the other person respond and repeat calmly until both agree that a problem exists. So you cannot just share your own thought. You also need to listen the other person respondents. Then they repeat calmly and stay calm for the conflict. I would like to talk about how we can fix this. This phrase can help to calm your conversations. And the third one is ask for and or give alternative resolutions. And ask what solutions the other person suggests. You also need to offer your resolutions and focus on the mutual benefits, not only pay attention your benefit. You also need to focus on the other's benefit. And the fourth one is make an agreement for change and agree on the specific actions or behaviors to resolve the issue. Write it down if it's a complex problem. So here we have the fourth step. The first one is the listen carefully, and also you can use the paraphrasing the conflict using the BCF model. The second one is agree with some part of the complaint. You need to show your understanding. You cannot just reject the other people's complaint. You also need to hear and listen and show your understanding. And the third one is ask for or offer alternative resolutions, like, what do you think we can do to resolve this issue? Or I would like to suggest this way. These phrases can help you to make a resolutions. The fourth one is make an agreement for change. So the goal of this conflict resolution is take the responsibility for your part and show the willingness to collaborate with the people with complaint. So if you are the mediator between the conflict resolution, you need to understand that who mediates. In most organizations, the managers usually mediate the conflicts. In some cases, a trained employee mediator or external professionals work as a mediator between the conflicts. And the mediator's roles can be remaining neutral, not judgmental. They must be neutral. They cannot just assign the right side or wrong side. And focus on solving the problem, not assigning the blame. And also the role is to help the both parties clarifying issues, expressing their feelings, and agreeing on specific actions. If you work as a mediator, you cannot be on one side. You need to be neutral and try to help on both sides. And here are some guidelines, and meet separately first, because if there is a conflict between two of them, they are very emotional. Sometimes they are very angry. Then the mediator must meet separately. The second one is begin joint meetings when both parties are calm and willing to discuss. If their emotion is high, you need to wait until the both parties becoming the calm. And the third one is encourage the discussion about behavior, not personality. Also in this step, you need to focus on the behavior, not the person. And the fourth one is to create a shared problem statement both sides accept. And the fifth one is use coaching skills like listening, paraphrasing, and guiding. As I mentioned earlier, in the listening stages, people need to show that focusing on their speeches and stop doing nothing, just paying attention to the speakers and the problems and paraphrasing their statement in your own words to show that you have understood what they have said. And you need to give the guidance on what to do in the future. If the mediation fails, an arbitrator who is a neutral judge-like figure makes a binding decision. Maybe the common in union or labor disputes, in some organizations, they have the labor union. And in the labor union, they have the arbitrator. And the outcome is usually a compromise. The compromise is a kind of the negotiating style. So the outcome is usually a compromise and should be used sparingly since it limits the collaborations. As a result, we have the conflict resolution models. The first one is initiating the conflict resolution. The first step is planning the behavior, consequences, and feelings, and clearly describe what is the behavior and what is the consequences and what do they feel about this action. And the goal of this action is to preparing the objective and calm messages. And the second step of the initiating conflict resolution is to present and agree on the conflict. Both sides must agree that they have the conflict. And the main action is share your BCF statement and ensure both sides acknowledge there is an issue. And in this stage, you need to build the shared understanding. And the third step, ask or give alternatives. Ask the resolutions and solutions, or you can suggest the possible options. And the first step is make an agreement. The both sides needs to agree on specific behavioral changes or actions. The second second one is responding to conflict resolution. In this stage, you are confronted and listen. And the first step is you need to listen, and also you need to paraphrase to make sure you're understanding. The second step is to agree with some part, accept the responsibility for at least part of the concern. You do not just reject all of them. You need to accept some of them. And the third step is ask for or offer the alternatives, and you need to discuss the possible solutions together. If you agree some of the problem, the other side has become willing to discuss. On the fourth step, make an agreement and commit to action steps for improvement. And the third role is the mediating conflict resolution. In this role, you are a neutral third party. As a mediator, set the stage. In this stage, you ensure both parties are calm, establish ground rules and neutrality. On step 2, you need